What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you enjoyed the preseason finale for the Dallas Cowboys, a 31-16 win for the good guys, for America's team. Fun times at AT&T Stadium. Of course, this is our post-game show. You can watch us live on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, Blogging the Boys Twitch channel, or the Blogging the Boys Facebook page. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're watching, like, whatever the case may be. You can also watch this after the fact if you're lazy and you missed the live show. How dare you? Shame on you. You can also, of course, listen to the show after the fact on the Blogging the Boys podcast network, and make sure to visit bloggingtheboys.com all the time for the latest and greatest in the world of America's team, where things have, of course, been a little bit busy as of late. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure to get your votes in, although I think I know where this is headed, for tonight's star of the game. Again, the Cowboys victorious in their preseason finale, the first preseason win of the year for Dallas. Will Grier, Hunter Lipke, and Malik Davis, the options tonight. Although, again, if there are any votes for anybody except for Will Grier, I will be very, very, very disappointed. This was a really positive night for the Cowboys, and yesterday was a really kind of crazy day. If somehow you missed it, I really can't imagine that that's possible. On Friday evening, the Cowboys trade a fourth-round draft pick to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for Trey Lance. My initial reaction, if you saw it, if you read it, I was a little bit down on it. I took 10 minutes. I thought about it. You all helped me. We kind of processed through it together. I think, the more time that goes on, we're starting to really love that trade more and more and more for what it represents, contextually for what Trey Lance represents. But given Trey Lance's presence, it was very obvious. In fact, it was literal that Will Grier would not be on this team. In fact, it was reported by David Moore, the Dallas Morning News, now more than 24 hours ago, that Will Grier had been told by the Cowboys that no matter what he would have done on Saturday night against the Raiders, that the Cowboys were going to move on. And what did Will Grier do? Kick a whole bunch of ass. We actually said we hoped that he kicked ass, and he definitely did. Will Grier on Saturday night for your Dallas Cowboys, my Dallas Cowboys, our Dallas Cowboys, he was 29 of 35. That is an 83% completion percentage. And again, threw the ball 35 times. So it's not like he was 83%, throwing the ball 12 times or anything like that. 305 passing yards. So 3 bills for Will Grier. 2 passing touchdowns, one of which went to Hunter Lipke. I see a lot of you chatting about Hunter in the comments. We'll talk about him and certainly how we're going to advocate for him to be on the 53-man roster. 10 rushing attempts for Will Grier. We certainly know he has that element to his game going all the way back to his days in West Virginia for 42 rushing yards. Simply put, it was masterful for Will Grier. I think this was kind of one of those things where, again, I don't want to speak for all of you, but I'm going to in this case. We're all going to root for Will Grier, right? Like, we're all going to kind of keep our eyes on him and wish him the best. And I feel like, based on the vibes we had from the 49ers fans who joined our emergency show on Friday night, they kind of feel the same way, although that's a little bit awkward because Lance is on a longtime rival of the Niners. Here's hoping that Will Grier winds up somewhere that we're cool with rooting for. That's what we're going to cross our fingers for. So while we're on the subject, I will hand out my stock report. I've written this already at bloggingtheboys.com. Yeah, I know I work really hard. That's how I roll. Shout out to me. And here's the thing, positive vibes only, but because they're necessary, I had no stock down to hand out. I really did not. I wanted to be fair. If you watch this show, if you listen to this show, you know that I'm not shy about handing out stock downs when I feel like they are earned and they are deserved. But I did not feel like there was a single stock down that really came from Saturday night from anybody on the Cowboys. So we have 10 stock ups to hand out. So let's get to it. But let's get to your comments. First things first. My friend Mikey said, by the way, everybody, Mikey is an Arsenal fan, and Arsenal are a bunch of losers who drew with Fulham on Saturday. What a shame, Mikey, that you can't root for a proper club like Manchester United that can complete a heroic comeback. But Mikey says, bro, why did Grier have to decide to ball on his way out? It is definitely a bitter pill to swallow, but I don't think we would have wanted it any other way. I think this is just kind of a win. This is the Michael Scott win-win-win, playbook, right? Like, we win, we get Trey Lance. Will Grier wins, that he obviously gets to go somewhere else. And the fact that everybody's winning means that there's winning happening all around, I suppose. That's what Charlie Sheen was really talking about. Brian Rail, everybody follow Brian on TikTok at Talk Cowboys, says, and all 3 may not be on the team this time next week, talking about our contenders for star of the game, which are Will Grier, obviously, Hunter Lipke, and Malik Davis. And that's part of what this is. And I think that that's a necessary caveat to add to the entire discussion that we're going to be having here, is that these are mostly, and I say this, believe me, with all due respect, these are mostly players that are not going to be in the NFL come 2 weeks from now, right? And that doesn't pertain to just this Cowboys game, but that's all across the NFL throughout this final week of the preseason. It's the final week of the preseason for a reason. And so we're going to, throw a lot of flowers around here and give them to a lot of people. But the context of the quality of competition definitely has to, of course, be added there. Thank you, Brian. David says, I had to vote for Hunter, my pet cat. Sorry, RJ, that's okay. Xavier says, still working on those polos. I think we would look good in them. I am. I'm screaming at my bosses, by the way. If you want to blog on the boys polo, let's do this. Tweet at SB Nation. Just tag at SB Nation on Twitter and tell them you want them to sell blog on the boys polos. But I am screaming at my bosses in the meantime on behalf of all of you. Loco, Texas says, Will Grier was interviewing for a job. Me being in between jobs, mad respect on him doing what he's got to do. Best of luck to you as well, Loco, Texas. We're all rooting for you. Let's see here. Tim Lowe on Facebook says, Will balled out tonight. Good for him. D-Day2 says, Dak wide open offense play calling too. We'll definitely get to that. Dukes, if that's Daisy Dukes from College Station, I've definitely said it like that before, says, yes on the 53, please. I think talking about Hunter Lipke, McEwen, sorry, talking about Sean McKeon. Let's see here. Let's get to more comments, and then we'll kind of start the stock up. Sam offers a question in a super chat. Thank you very much, Sam. Says, you think they'll keep 4 running backs and 4 tight ends? If we look at the running back and tight end position groups together, right, who are the players that we know are safe? As far as running backs go, the only ones who are safe in my mind are Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle, and Deuce Vaughn. So there's 3. If you look at tight end, all right, who is safe in that room? Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, they're the absolute most safe. I think Peyton Hendershot is clearly safe, especially in light of the John Stevens Jr. injury from a week ago. So now we're up to 6. So we're only able to keep, if you want to keep 4 and 4, I suppose, the battle is kind of between Malik Davis, Hunter Lipke, Sean McKeon. I don't think they need that many. I really don't. I'd rather go longer elsewhere. I'd rather go longer at offensive line. They're going to keep 3 quarterbacks. That's a bit of a luxury, right? And some of that's necessity in the emergency rule and all that kind of stuff. I don't think you need that many. I would love it. And these players, it's important to say, we had a great article on our site yesterday on Friday that Joey Ikes wrote. We're going to be upset, right? There's going to be a player, whether it's Hunter, and I'm not trying to, put anything out in the universe, but whether it's Hunter Lipke or Malik Davis, or Isaiah Land, there's going to be a player that the Cowboys cut, and we're going to say, you fools, what are you doing? There's no way that they're going to make it through. There's no way that you're going to be able to stash them on your practice squad. More often than not, they usually are able to do that. But, it's not a foolproof process, obviously. But I definitely would not keep 4 and 4 myself. Kevin comes in with some cool water, says, and I wouldn't get overly impressed with Dak calling plays. Defenses don't game plan for preseason games. Again, I think that's partly fair, but just getting about the cool water thing. All right. Mike Cantu says, blogging the boys polo, make it happen. We'll see. Like I said, tweet at SB Nation. I've done all I can. Jeremy says, sending all of the good vibes to Will. He is a class act, and I know he will be on someone's 53. All right, so let's get this party started. Stock up. Will Grier. It can't, what? Like, again, what an... I think people throw out the term Disney story too often. This isn't a Disney story because it began with something unfortunate, obviously, for Will Grier, in that his job was lost, right? The Trey Lance trade obviously removed Will Grier's job from Will Grier's hands. And so that's a difficult way to kind of start the Disney movie. But man, he played so well. People talk about in life, right? Like, control what you can control. I'm a big believer in that. I'm certain that most people are. That's a very common, approach to life in general. And it really kind of felt like Will Grier just controlled what he could control. He could not control, obviously, that the Cowboys saw an opportunity, traded for Trey Lance. All of that was out of his hands completely. But he could control how he played, obviously, and he played out of his mind. Good for him. Seriously, cannot wait to see where he winds up. Marlene, you said, please answer my question. I don't see your question. Let's see here. Marlene says, I did not get the game and was hurt. I'm not certain what this means. I hope you're all right, but says, who was the quarterback tonight? It was Will Grier. He was the quarterback for the entire duration of the game. He was phenomenal. That's why he is a stock up. The stock up. If there ever was a stock up for a single game, it was Will Grier on Saturday night for the Dallas Cowboys. Again, we really don't have to say much about this. Actually, a great point from Charting Cowboys that says Disney movies do often start with some sort of conflict or strife. So it's fitting. That's true. This is the harrowing part of the journey. And even then, all due respect to Will Grier and what he's gone through, this is not anything similar to the beginning of, say, Up. Like, Disney has definitely gone further when it comes to conflict or strife. Let's see. Mikey says, stock down Will Grier for waiting so long to ball. Mikey, again, I know you're upset about Arsenal. It's okay. Shout out to Will Grier. Shout out to Hunter Lipke. Over 100 yards from scrimmage. When the Cowboys finished their draft and had their undrafted free agency class, a lot of us thought that Hunter Lipke had a legitimate chance to make the team just kind of because he was this big fullback option. And there's so many people, I don't know why this is a thing, but whatever. And again, I say this with all due respect. So many people are concerned about what the Cowboys are going to do on the goal line, how they're going to replace Zeke Elliott's 12 touchdowns from a year ago. And again, not to take anything away from Zeke, but you're telling me that you believe that the Cowboys can travel 99 yards very consistently, but that they will have, some strife themselves with that final yard. They'll be completely and totally cool for literally 99% of the process. But that last little bit, I don't know. I mean, this is a real Kobayashi Maru. I have no idea how the Cowboys are going to get through it. If you do subscribe to that school of thought, welcome to Hunter Lipke. And I think what's cool about this game and the way that Hunter played and performed was that it was more than just this short yardage goal line back. I mean, Hunter Lipke was this true total. The easy low-hanging fruit comp is John Kuhn, obviously, given Mike McCarthy's history in Green Bay as a play caller. So yeah, I mean, I would absolutely not leave Hunter Lipke off the 53-man roster if I were in charge. Great job by him. Awesome game. Well done. A lot of you have brought it up, so we're going to go ahead and get to it third because it felt like we had to give Will Grier love. We had to give Hunter Lipke love. Stock up. I don't even know where the stock went up from, but Dak Prescott, the offensive coordinator. And again, I think it's let's see. Shane, by the way, says, man, I missed a Cowboys win. They didn't air the game in Oklahoma. Sorry about that. At least I didn't find it. The days of that are over. At the very least, stock up like Cowboys on TV because preseason's over. Next Cowboys game's on national television. So best of luck to you, Shane, in terms of watching. But yeah, I mean, so if you're somebody who missed the game or missed whatever happened before the game, it was reported by Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News, and then it was a big talking point on the broadcast that Dak Prescott would be calling plays for the Cowboys offense, would be serving as offensive coordinator. And holy crap, it was so awesome. It was so cool. The Cowboys were incredible. If we're being honest, right? The Cowboys had 7 possessions on offense. The first 6 all ended in point opportunities. And by that, I mean they were either touchdowns, field goals, or one missed field goal for Brandon Aubry. The 7th possession was the end of game, which obviously ended in victory formation. So 0 punts for the Cowboys with Dak Prescott calling plays. And again, I'm fine providing a few grains of salt that this was a preseason game, the quality of competition, et cetera, et cetera. Cowboys had 28 first downs on offense, 16 through the air, 11 on the ground. They only had 1 first down by way of penalty. So did the Raiders. They were 8 of 14 on third down. They were 3 of 3 on fourth down. Dak Prescott with some onions on Saturday night. They ran 71 total plays on offense. They had 457 total yards of offense. They and the Raiders both averaged 6.4 yards per play. We talked about Will Grier, over 300 yards passing, 153 yards on the ground for the Cowboys. They were 4 of 4 in the red zone. I mean, it was an incredibly efficient offensive night. And so even if you are including the grains of salt or whatever, I mean, if you do not believe for whatever reason that Dak Prescott has an incredible grasp of how offense should go in the NFL, this had to have been, I think, a big wake-up call for you. Dak Prescott was phenomenal, so kudos to him. I think you can't leave this game without feeling really, really, really good about the state of the Cowboys offense in a number of different ways. I think those were the kind of obvious headliner stock ups. The next ones are a little bit under the surface. But I mentioned that we have 10 and we're 3 through, so that means we have 7 left to go. Shout out to any of you who were able to do that easy math. So stock up for me, I have 2 linebackers on the list, Devin Harper and Jabril Cox. So I've got stock ups for both of them. Like I said, I don't have any stock downs. I thought Devin Harper played really well early in the game. Again, apologies to those of you who missed it. I'm hopeful that we're here to provide you some level of understanding on what did happen. But Devin Harper early in the game had a great third down stop. And Jabril Cox didn't really have like a moment like that I would kind of, put on the cover of his performance of the game. But it was really great to see legitimate linebacker depth. I think, obviously it was terrible what happened with everybody that got hurt last week for the Cowboys, but DeMarvion Overshown going down really kind of called into question the depth at linebacker for the Cowboys. We obviously know that Leighton Vander Esch and Damone Clark are going to kind of hold things down from a starting perspective, but who's going to step up behind them? The fact that Devin Harper and Jabril Cox both had solid moments on Saturday night, I thought was really impressive and really important, obviously, for the overall state of the defense. So kudos to the two Cowboys linebackers that saw some love on Saturday night. Rob Garcia says, do you think that Dak was a little hesitant to overwrite Kellen's plays at the line when he was play caller? Talking about Kellen here. Now that Mike McCarthy's doing it, he'll maybe do it often. I would say that we should not read too much into this. Like, now I sound negative, but we should not look, and I believe me, I'm well in the middle of the Dak Prescott fan club. That's why my initial reaction to the Trey Lance thing was as sensitive as it was, because I was worried about the, circus it would cause around Dak. But whatever, that's, water under the bridge at this point in time. I thought that Dak Prescott called a great game, but it is, I think, premature to say like he could do this all the time. But I do think there is some truth to Dak having more purposeful leeway with McCarthy calling plays. And I think that that's by design. Not that Kellen was opposed to that, but it is very clear, it is very obvious that Mike McCarthy wants things to flow through Dak Prescott. And you can believe in Dak or not, but that is the way that an NFL team, an elite NFL team, should operate. The quarterback is the person who has the most responsibility. They're the person who has to have the largest understanding of what is happening in and around things all around. And so, yeah, I mean, it's I think it's a good sign, but I wouldn't take that big of a takeaway away from what we saw on Saturday night. But so kudos to the Cowboys linebackers. Moving on, stock up Mazi Smith. Last week we talked about this a lot. Last week was not a great game for Mazi Smith, and that's okay. There were a lot of takes floating around this past week, last 7 days or so. It's difficult to transition to life in the NFL. And I think that this was a great bounce back game for Mazi. I saw a great tweet from friend of the show, David Hellman of Fox Sports. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like, if, I know that Mazi's, doing this against, kind of third stringers, but the fact that he's just overpowering dudes really shows that the talent is there. It's just all about learning scheme and technique and things like that. And I think that that's really well said. I think that Mazi is not going to be a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro right away, but there's no question that there is talent there. You may have seen, whoever you are, or heard the clip from the Roku documentary, the Pick Is In that they released. There was a scene. We wrote about this at our site at bloggingtheboys.com if you want to go see it. It was a clip, and for what it's worth, the Cowboys website themselves had released part of this right after the draft, but it was a clip of the Cowboys front office debating between Mazi Smith and Matthew Bergeron, kind of pros and cons, et cetera, et cetera. But so that was really great. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But I thought Mazi Smith played really well, really positive step forward, really kind of awesome way to start the regular season for him. Kevin offers last week's was an overreaction that made no sense. Yes, he had a few bad reps, but it was against the top offensive line, and name a defensive tackle that never has a bad rep against a good line. You can't. Again, I would not offer that it was worth overreacting. I think that Mazi played poorly last week, but it was, again, that's all that really needed to be said. Like, I think what I said was, I don't know exactly what I said, but my general disposition was like, not the best game for Mazi Smith, but no reason to freak out, no reason to panic. It's all good. We'll see. But Mazi Smith, arrows pointing up after Saturday night. Loco says, I saw that video. I like when Jerry was like, I'm going to feel like, what, if we don't get one of these guys. That's true. And the Cowboys did walk away with Mazi Smith, so good for them. Stock up for me as well. Simi Fehoko. I love Simi Fehoko, and I'm nervous for him. I don't know if this was Simi Fehoko's last game with the Cowboys. We'll of course see. There's obviously only there, I think there's a consensus, right? We have a consensus that there are 5 receivers on the Cowboys 53-man roster right now, right? Like, if we're not going to do this right now, by the way, we will have a 53-man roster prediction. I will have a 53-man roster prediction that will drop on Sunday here on our channel. I will, of course, write about it at bloggingtheboys.com. I'll post some stuff on my socials about it. If you're curious, you can follow me on social media at RJ Ochoa, basically everywhere except for TikTok, where somebody had that username. So had to go with RJ.Ochoa. But 53-man roster prediction coming on Sunday, because the Cowboys, like everybody else, have to finalize their 53-man roster by Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. But getting back to Simi, so the 5 receivers that are set for the Cowboys, obviously CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, Jalen Tolbert, Kevontae Turpin. Who's your 6th? Actually, if you're watching live, I would love to hear who's your 6th receiver. That's the question. Who is your 6th receiver? Your contenders, your options, your nominees. Of course, obviously, Simi Fehoko, Jalen Brooks, who I thought had a nice game too, but I think Jalen's stock kind of remained static. Like, it was fine. I don't think he improved. I thought Simi, this was the best preseason game so far, or not so far, but the best one for Simi Fehoko. So you got Jalen Brooks, you got Simi Fehoko, you got Dontario Drummond, you got Dennis Houston, if you want to go that route. Those are your kind of 4 tried and true contenders, I think, for the 6th wide receiver spot. So I don't know if Simi did enough to take it. South Texas says I'd prefer Drummond over Simi. Kevin says I would keep Jalen Brooks over him if we take, I think you mean 6, not 5. South Texas says 6 is Brooks. Adam says Jalen Brooks. Alan says Drummond played well. Rick says Brooks. Loco says 6th. Des Bryant get him out of retirement. Mitchell Green says those are my 6, RJ. South Texas offers. Brooks is solid, play in and play out. Joe Brooks, not biased at all, says I like Jalen Brooks because I'm Jay Brooks too. And finally, Rob says Cooks, Gallup, Lamb, Brooks, Turpin, Tolbert. Yeah. So I don't think it was enough, and I would love to be wrong, but then if I'm wrong, then I'm missing out on Jalen Brooks too. You know what I mean? It's a tough thing. I can't recall a year where I felt this many internal battles or felt this difficult about so many roster positions or so many roster battles on the Cowboys. But stock up for Simi Fehoko nonetheless. If it was his final game, he certainly gave a very strong effort there at the very end. So next up on our list, stock up Luke Schoonmaker. Hey, Luke Schoonmaker had a touchdown in this game. And I do think that Luke Schoonmaker has come along. Now, to be clear, the game, and I reiterate this point a lot, the game is stock up. And so that doesn't even necessarily mean that you are doing well or you're awesome, right? It means that your stock improved. Now, Luke Schoonmaker began his Dallas Cowboys career with about the lowest stock possible. I don't know a single person who loved the Luke Schoonmaker pick. I think I know like 5 people who tolerated the Luke Schoonmaker pick, but I know like 5 million people who were super down on it, who hated it, X, Y, and Z'd it, whatever the case may be. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that because he had a touchdown in the 3rd preseason game that all of a sudden Luke Schoonmaker is Jason Witten reincarnated. However, it was a nice moment. It was a nice moment, and it was a positive step forward. It was proof of concept that he can do this in the NFL. So stock is up for Luke Schoonmaker nonetheless. And I think, at the very least, he helps you give, I think he provides pause on whether or not you want to keep Sean McKeon. And some of that obviously also has to do with Hunter Lipke and things like that. But Luke Schoonmaker I remain excited. That's where I remain interested. But it was a positive day for Luke Schoonmaker, and for that, he gets a stock up on this show. We have 2 left, if you have been counting, by the way. And we might as well do it now. Malik Davis. Malik Davis was awesome as well. It was kind of difficult to stand out when Hunter Lipke was kind of taking all of the attention as far as the backfield was concerned. As far as Cowboys rushers, Hunter Lipke carried the ball 15 times for 58 yards. Will Grier also, as we talked about, 10 carries, 53 yards. And Malik Davis, 10 carries, 42 yards. I actually have to correct my Instagram post. I actually got that number wrong. I gave Will Grier 42 yards. It's 53 yards. But Malik Davis, 10 carries, 42 yards. Just some tough yards, I thought. Ran really hard. And I don't know what the Cowboys are going to do at the running back position. We obviously talked about that a little while ago. But it's tough. Rob says, I don't know if Malik makes it past waivers if we cut him. Again, that's one of those things we say a lot every year. I do think that he's the 4th name for me. Like that, I think that's we all agree, right? I'm fighting off a sneeze, by the way. That's why my face is funny. That's how you know we're doing this live. But he's clearly the 4th name, right? Like we're all in agreement, and that's not said disrespectfully, but it's Tony Pollard. And then Rico Dowdle, obviously, Deuce Vaughn is his own thing. So if you're talking about the running backs in terms of the priority that you want them on the roster, Malik Davis is fourth. So his competition really isn't in the room. Like, again, Hunter Lipke's kind of the same, but also different because of what he offers. So do you want to carry Hunter Lipke? Do you want to carry Sean McKeon? Again, you are carrying 3 quarterbacks. I don't know. I mean, I think I'd be fine rolling the dice and thinking that you could stash, Malik Davis on the practice squad. That's where I think I land right now. I don't feel great about that decision, but like I said, there are going to be several. I'm talking like 5 to 7 roster decisions that we're going to need to take some like Tums about. Like, we're going to feel upset because the Cowboys are going to cut some players that we really like, and I think Malik Davis may wind up being one of them. But we will see. Time will tell. I mean, something like this, it can feel so heavy because we're thinking like, man, he's such a big part of the rotation. We haven't seen Tony Pollard at all this preseason period, right? Like, Tony Pollard's going to get the lion's share of these touches, and we want Deuce Vaughn to be involved. Like, the touches simply are not going to be there for Malik Davis, and that's part of the question, or part of the option. Now, Dustin also offers a great point. Says, running back questions. What will happen with Ronald Jones? Is it possible Davis and Lipke get cut? If Lipke makes the team, what's his role? First of all, Ronald Jones now will not be seen for a little while in terms of games. Obviously, he's suspended for the first 2 games, so you don't have to worry about him impacting your roster math right now. That's the benefit of that. If Hunter Lipke makes the team, he's obviously kind of a short yardage dude. He's a special teams dude. And he's a guy that can kind of, that's not afraid to do it all, which I think is what people admire and like about him. And so I mean, again, I'm not feeling great about this, but I think Malik Davis is maybe like my 55th player right now, and I can only keep 53, and that's a tough scene. But those are 9 stock ups again, and we have 10. All right, now I'll be honest with you, and because I think this is obvious, but like, obviously as the game is unfolding, we're preparing, right? We're okay. This guy's a stock up. This guy's a stock up. We have our list ready, right? And we had 9 stock ups, and we had 1 that I had created a new category for, although I think I've done this in the past, but it was called static stock. And it was a player who I thought did not improve their positioning with the Cowboys, but also did not, see it fall. But then a 59-yard field goal happens. Stock up Brandon Aubry. Now, I'm happy that Brandon Aubry made that 59-yard field goal, but I want to be honest with you. I was fine with Brandon Aubry being the Cowboys kicker before that 59-yard field goal. Brandon Aubry, prior to that field goal that he made, missed a 59-yarder. I'm never going to penalize a kicker, any kicker, for missing a 59-yarder. That's an extraordinarily long kick. It's not the same sort of thing. The accuracy involved should not be weighted the same as it should be from, say, inside of 45. So I'm not upset with Brandon Aubry in that sense. But he bounced back. I think before the field goal, he had 4 consecutive extra points because Dak Prescott called an amazing offense, which we talked about. Now, then he did make the 59-yard field goal. I mean, this is this Brandon Aubry is the kicker for the Dallas Cowboys. That may not make you feel great, but I think, again, I'm not going to pretend that I know the total lengths and strengths of every kicker in the NFL. But I would bet that Brandon Aubry right now on talent alone is somewhere around the 10th to 12th best kicker in the league. And I understand if you are upset that you can't have the best, right? Like, that's what we all want. We want the best everything. But I think Brandon Aubry is a little bit better than we're giving him credit for. And we haven't had a whole, lot of data. We don't have the largest sample size to kind of support that. And I think that's what's kind of itching in the back of our minds. But Brandon Aubry, Jay Swift also notes all touchbacks too. That's another great point. DJ Dog says, Aubry, agree. Let's roll with him. The Oxnard end zone is a unique weather effect. LOL. Rick Ursulini says, made all extra points. Again, I understand if you are not feeling great, but I mean, look, there are way worse positions to be in. And if you don't believe me, look at San Francisco. And part of their issue right now is injuries. Hey, by the way, if the Niners need a quarterback, we'll send them Will Grier for a 3rd-round pick. I'm just saying right now. But anyway, but for real, Brandon Aubry, awesome game. Good job, Brandon Aubry. We trust you. We believe in you. Brandon Aubry's going to have a new number because he's not a stock up for me, but Kelvin Joseph is definitely making this team. I say that like, he's not a stock up because I think I already had his stock fairly high. So Kelvin Joseph's making this team. So he's number 1. So I don't know what number Brandon Aubry's going to be. Obviously, Trey Lance needs a new number. So there's a lot of new numbers that are going to be coming around and being changed. We'll see if Deuce Vaughn gets a new number. I know everybody's really interested in that. But Watsamata on Brandon Aubry says, don't love him, but 100% feel better about him than I did at the start of 2022 with Maher. DJ Dog 31 brings us up. Let's pose this question to the class, DJ Dog, if you're all right with that. Are we feeling better about the backup offensive line? Your answers, if you are with us, just simply yes or no. Are you feeling better about the Dallas Cowboys backup offensive line? I think that that I am. I know that's a scary thing to say. Dukes says yes. Kevin says yes. Jay Swift says yes as I fight off the season again. Mikey says yes. David says yes. Awesome and TJ Bass. Janie says yes. Micah Parsons fan says yes. Rick Ursolini says yes. Jared Wall says yes. That sneeze is fighting me really hard. CJ Watjin, I hope I'm getting that correctly, says no. Let's see. Rob says no, trade or free agency. Tim says yes. So the yeses have it. We'll give that. Now, I don't think anyone feels great. Again, and I know that that's kind of a lame way to answer the problem, right? Like, oh, hey, RJ, we have this problem. Well, everybody has a problem, right? Like that doesn't solve the problem. Like that doesn't help. Mikey says, awesome. Well, let's go. Bass have impressed me. I agree. I think Josh Ball has played well as an interior offensive lineman. So I feel similarly to the depth along the offensive line as I do Brandon Aubry. Like I feel fine. I feel okay. I think that given, the situation, the Cowboys have made the best lemonade that they possibly can. And I'm fine giving them $1 at their stand and drinking a few cups. Like that's where I'm at with the offensive line depth. We'll see how it goes. We still haven't seen the starting offensive line all together. It's important to remember that. But and I know that we're all scared, obviously, of somebody getting hurt or whatever the case may be. But right now, I think the Cowboys, this is how I've really kind of come to feel, which is very strange. A good friend of mine, Kyle Barber, who runs our Baltimore Ravens site at SB Nation, Baltimore Beatdown. Everybody go check it out if you need some news or analysis on the Ravens. At the beginning of today's sort of game, before the game even started, Jerry Jones obviously held court. He talked about the Trey Lance trade, and he said all the right things. Jerry said, yeah, look, we just really liked him. We really wanted to get him. We didn't want to let San Francisco hang up. And then Jerry said, hey, you know what? This has absolutely nothing to do with Dak. We're still going to get that deal done, et cetera, et cetera. He said all the right things, which was kind of strange. In fact, Stephen Jones also said all the right things. If you didn't hear, I know some of you say you didn't get to watch the game, but Stephen Jones appeared on the broadcast and talked about Trey Lance, kind of echoed Jerry and said, yeah, we really wanted him. We liked it. 4th round pick, totally worth it. But yeah, this has nothing to do with Dak. That extension, we want to get that done sooner rather than later, et cetera, et cetera. And so back to my friend Kyle Barber, we were, I tweeted, I said, this was the right thing to say. It's a good thing to say. It's the best possible way to handle this. And Kyle was like, yeah, dude, that's the perfect thing to say, like, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just saying, like, at what point did our extremely volatile favorite football team become this boring organization that just does good things and makes sound decisions, right? Like, remember when the Cowboys used to be a disaster and used to be chaotic, and now they're just simple and mundane and boring and efficient and wise. Like, when did all of that happen? And I think that overall idea kind of has manifested over the course of training camp and the preseason with regards to the offensive line. We were super panicked. We were screaming. We were panicking. We were SpongeBob and Patrick outside, Squidward pissed off inside the house, whatever. And we were upset that they had done nothing. And here we are sitting together on Saturday, August 26, 2023, while USC, comes back to life this season. And we're like, hey, we kind of like this. Like there's some pieces we like. Brandon Aubry's pretty good. Dare I say, and I recognize how foolish it is to say this, but I think it's fair to say that I trust them. I feel like they have earned our collective trust as fans. And that is a terrifying thing to feel because of how we've been burned in the past. But I trust them. It doesn't mean that I think that they're definitely going to win the Super Bowl, whatever the case may be, but I trust them. They have done some very, very smart things. And when I haven't trusted them, when you haven't trusted them, it has worked out, like we're talking about with the offensive line depth. Mikey has posed a question for the chat. Says, with the season about to start, if you could add one past Cowboy on this team to ensure a Super Bowl, who are you picking? It's a really fun question. I don't know. Right now, I'd probably I don't know at this point. I mean, I'd say offensive line depth, but I don't know. I might go. It's just difficult to it's difficult to find a spot that I really want to upgrade. And again, that kind of speaks to how they've built the roster. But I suppose I would add, um, man, I think I'd add a lot of. So we got Michael Irvin, Larry Allen, Charles Haley. Brian says a healthy Sean Lee. That's a fair answer. That would not be my answer. Larry Allen's hard to disagree with. Fine, I'm fine with Larry Allen. It's cool. We'll sit there. Larry Allen's a good answer, but yeah, Cowboys are in a place of trust, and I'm willing to open my heart and kind of believe in them. And now Pick and Pop, willing to kind of calm us all down, says slow down, my friend. We need to chip first. Totally agree. Again, I'm not saying the Cowboys are the most well-run organization in the NFL, but they have definitely come out on the other side of the circus that they've been as of late. And so, that's cool. Like, they deserve their props. They have handled everything very, very, very well to this point. And so for that, I'm willing to kind of give them a bit of a golf clap. So kudos to the Cowboys. Okay. Up next, preseason. Yeah, it's over. All right. No more preseason for the Dallas Cowboys, which means their next game, it's for real. The season opener is Sunday, September 10th. The Dallas Cowboys will be on the road. The Cowboys are starting their season. I don't know if anybody has said this, but if not, I want credit for coining this. The Cowboys are starting their season Sinatra style. All right. They're doing New York. The New York Football Giants on the road week 1 at MetLife Stadium. And then the Cowboys come home, obviously, for their home opener against the New York Jets. The city's so nice, they named it twice. New York, Sinatra style to start the season for the Dallas Cowboys. And those are 2 tough games, obviously. I know that the Cowboys have owned the Giants. In fact, I don't know if anybody knows this or if you all know this precisely. Dak Prescott has won, I think, his last 10 games in a row against the Giants. The Giants just are horrible against Dak Prescott. They have not beaten a Dak Prescott-led Cowboys team since Dak Prescott's rookie year. The only wins the Giants have against the Cowboys in that time span have seen backup quarterbacks obviously playing in lieu of Dak Prescott. Andy Dalton obviously comes to mind. That was a tough scene. Even Cooper Rush, though, did beat the Giants last year. You've got the Giants, you got the Jets, but the next time the Cowboys lace them up, it is all for real. They are on Sunday Night Football, and you ask me, that's the best way to start the season. All right. I don't know if any of you have already had your fantasy drafts, or you still have a draft, or maybe you've had one, you still have another. But the ideal day is you get all day to hang out with Scott Hansen on the Red Zone channel, and then Sunday Night Football starts. Carrie sings the song. Mike, Chris, Melissa Stark, they show up, and we get all juiced up, and we go to work. We just have one game to focus on. We don't have to worry about everything else happening in the ether. All right, we can just apply all of our attention on one single game, and that is the Dallas Cowboys visiting the New York Giants. All right. So that's what's next for the Cowboys. But what's next here at Blogging the Boys, Sunday, you're going to get a video with my 53-man roster prediction. So be excited for that. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure if you want, you don't have to turn on notifications, but if you want, hey, go crazy. But please do subscribe. Please like the video. Those things definitely help us out. So that'll be coming on Sunday. Cowboys roster cuts will probably be trickling in between Sunday and Tuesday. They have to be done by Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, but they can happen anytime between now and then. We will have a tracker available for you at bloggingtheboys.com. We will update it as all the cuts roll in. So head on over to the site, open that, leave it as a tab open on your phone, just refresh. You'll be fine. You'll get all the news. You'll stay caught up. And then Tuesday night, after the initial 53-man roster is set, we'll have our live Blogging the Boys roundtable. Myself and various BTB staffers will discuss things. We'll be upset. We'll scream. We'll cry. It'll be therapy. It'll be awesome. And then we've got a bye week where we have all sorts of content coming your way. I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't like to offer this out because, these things are always subject to change. All right. But next week, we are scheduled to have on both the Blogging the Boys podcast network and here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel an interview with the GOAT, the greatest of all time, the NFL's all-time leading rusher, Emmitt Smith, is scheduled to stop by Blogging the Boys next week, so you definitely don't want to miss that. That should be a lot of fun. Again, subject to change, but that is the plan. The emails have been sent back and forth. I've been told it's happening, so looking forward to that happening. So that's why I say you do want to subscribe so you don't miss anything that's going on here. If you like me, you like what I'm doing, You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Threads at RJ Ochoa, on TikTok, RJ.Ochoa. You can leave a comment here as well. I'll try to get to those, or you can send me an email, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. I do not want to forget to hand out our star of the game. Where is it here? Our star of the game. Let's see. The votes have been tabulated, and wow, what a surprise. Will Grier. Congratulations to Will Grier. And honestly, thank you to Will Grier. I will always remember this. Like, we'll always remember the Will Grier night. You know what I mean? So really, really, really rooting for Will Grier. And whatever comes next, you have the support of Cowboys fans all over the world. David, by the way, says, add Emmett to this team. Woo, that'd be fun as well. All right. That's it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday. I hope you eat something great. I hope if your team did start their college football season this week, I hope it was wonderful for you. I hope if you're a Texas Rangers fan that the Houston Astros take over first place in the AL West. I'm sorry. That's my team. So anyway, let's go ahead and get out of here. I love you all. Have the best weekend ever. You know why? Because you deserve it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time.